Have you ever noticed that Cartoon Network pilots all seem to follow a strange unwritten rule? From Ed, Edd n Eddy to Adventure Time and even regular show, it's like they have some kind of hidden formula, something that makes their first episodes feel oddly similar. What's the secret? Today, we're going to be pulling back the curtain on these iconic pilots to reveal the method behind the madness, and trust me, once you see the pattern, you'll never watch these shows the same way again. Okay, let's jump in. I just want to premise that you're going to be missing a lot of shows in this lineup, like Camp Lazlo, Chowder. There's a lot that I didn't have time to get to. I wanted to do these ones specifically because I thought they were unique and special. Two notable ones, like the Powerpuff Girls and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, are purposely missing because I want to break those down in a separate video, as they are an hour and a half long. So we're going to dive into the fascinating world of Cartoon Network pilots and explore a surprising pattern that I've noticed after watching tons of them. In fact, it's almost like they all do the same thing. And what exactly is that? First off, let's break down the basics. What exactly is a pilot? A pilot is kind of like the all-important first draft. You know how you have the first draft of a script? Well, this is kind of like the first draft of the final product of a show. It's what creators put out in the world to showcase their idea, their characters, and the general vibe of the show. Creators will typically go to a network and get funding to do it, or they might even release it on their own online. Some shows start off at other networks, and some shows start off immediately. They're kind of a blueprint, and more often than not, a big experiment. While others will start with a little preamble, talk about how they got where they are, and maybe have their first adventure. Of course, not all these pilots are smooth sailing. Sometimes a pilot can be rough, maybe even slightly off in tone compared to the rest of the series. But there's one thing that almost every Cartoon Network pilot does right. They communicate the characters. Even if the plot's a bit thin or the animation isn't quite there yet, we get a sense of who these people are, their quirks, and what their goals are. One thing that we're going to keep in mind during this video is that we're looking at these pilots as standalone pieces. We're not judging them based on how they fit into the broader series or connect to the episodes that came later. Instead, we'll just talk about how each pilot works as an independent, self-contained introduction to the world. After all, Cartoon Network pilots weren't always guaranteed to go to series, so they had to be strong enough to stand alone. This will help us understand the formula and kind of what Cartoon Network has developed over the years. A lot of these feel a little horror. So with all that context in mind, let's dive into the Cartoon Network pilots and just see how many of them follow the same storytelling roadmap and uncover what makes each one different along the way. I'm Johnny2000, and this is Cartoon Network Pilots. We're going to start with the 2000s generation. We have The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I'm sure you've heard of this. It's a little dated now, but the concept is that it's these two kids that are entitled to the Grim Reaper and have access to all of his powers and connection to the underworld. I haven't really seen this pilot. We're introduced to Billy, who's playing with his little army figurines and being nonsensical, and this guy is the dumbest character. Not trying to be rude, but he is intentionally the dumbest character in any television show I've probably ever seen.
How are you today, Mandy?
Then Mandy comes along and we see that they're close friends, and yet she definitely bullies him, making him feel bad. Mandy tells Billy that she's taking him to see Mr. Snuggles because it's his 10th birthday.
Happy birthday, Mr. Snuggles! Hey, want to see him do a trick? No.
The music is already so different, and it's a lot more childlike than the inevitable show would be. Billy shows Mandy his hamster, and it bites him, making him think it's a kiss. Then everything turns red and green, and then suddenly in a dramatic 3D cool pan, we see the Grim Reaper! It's revealed that the Grim Reaper is actually here to collect Mr. Snuggles.
Look, it's Santa! Santa Claus!
And Billy thinks it's Santa Claus.
Do I still get presents?
Grimm's voice is surprisingly deep in the first episode, but that's not the weirdest thing about it.
Curtains for Mr. Snuggles.
You got him, curtains?
It's a pretty big power move to have an entire kids show about death and having Grimm explain to these kids why he's going to kill their hamster. But I guess it could be a Full House moment. Turns out the kids aren't as scared as Grimm because Billy's stupid and Mandy is unemotional, leaving the Grim Reaper to feel the most triggered by the kids more than they are him. Billy takes the scythe and starts wreaking evil havoc. Mandy sits the Grim Reaper down for a tea party, which is kind of Wednesday Addams if you think about it.
I cannot allow you to take Mr. Snuggles.
Grimm tries to get rid of the hamster, but Mandy insists on playing a game that if Mandy challenges him to a game, that if he loses, they get to keep Mr. Snuggles and he doesn't die. Grimm laughs maniacally in the darkest we've probably ever seen him, and he claims that he's never lost a game. So if they were to win,
I'll be your best friend forever.
Grimm opens a portal to the underworld and we disgustingly see all Billy and Mandy's limbs. And I really hope that doesn't happen every time they go there, because this looks painful. Grimm says to play his favorite game, Limbo, and we're introduced to his connection to the underworld. Grimm continues to make the stick lower and lower, and Billy just happens to be amazing at it. Grimm is surprisingly good as well. But the hamster jumps into his eye when he's trying to do it, causing him to lose. I'm curious who voiced the rat, because these sounds are kind of gross. I just picture a rapper going up to the mic and being like... He has an emotional breakdown, which is the beginning of this new kind of character arc for him for the rest of the show. We end with a cute scene where Billy tucks Grimm into bed, but Billy has his body and Mandy has his head, and Grimm ends on the pilot saying, "I loathe you." And that's the pilot.
Why me?
The pilot for Billy and Mandy is really interesting because it has a lot of darker tone. I would definitely say that the characters are a lot more ambiguous because each of them have their own goals equally, as opposed to something that'll later come along like Steven Universe, where it's more of one character having a goal. I think the environment is very clear. The rules of the universe that matter are that Grimm has access to the underworld and that he is able to take people's lives. The dynamic between the three main characters is very interesting, as somebody's stupid, somebody's not emotional, and then the Grim Reaper finds himself being the most insecure character. The scene where Grimm comes to life reminds me a lot of the Fairly Odd Parents. It's more like an underworld version of the Fairly Odd Parents, where instead of being able to be granted wishes, they're able to cause evil chaos, which is a really dark tone for the show. The art style kind of remains intact. Everything's a little exaggerated, but it's still cute. Grimm is a lot more threatening than he inevitably becomes, and Mandy seems to be intact for the rest of the series as this genius little girl. Overall, this show is one of the funniest of all time, and I don't remember acknowledging it as much for the story as for the comedy, but this is a really stellar introduction to a series like this. It's unique, the color palette works so well with the story, and overall, I'll give this a 9 out of 10. Now let's take a dive into Ed, Edd, and Eddy. Okay, so for the pilot we have the Ed Touchables. His obsession with labeling everything is interrupted by relentless doorbell pranks. He's soaked and fish-slapped by the time Eddy finally reveals himself.
What took you so long?
Oh, hello, Eddie.
Adding chaos by switching the Ed's labels for fun. Ed realizes his magnifying glass is missing,
So violated.
Maybe you misplaced it.
Never.
which sets off his melodramatic search. Eddie seizes this chance to be a hero detective and proclaims a serial toucher is behind the missing items.
Beware of the toucher! Serial toucher on the loose!
If cops could handle quote-unquote serial touchers, I think the entertainment industry would be a lot better off anyway. He recruits Ed, who brings his horror movie intensity to their stakeout. When Johnny and Plank set off their trap, the Eds chase them around the neighborhood in a cartoonish scramble. After interrogating Plank and torturing Johnny, he confesses to needing to go to the bathroom, and Ed soon finds the magnifying glass was on him all along. The Eds draw earrings knocked from their hands, and they spend the end of the day in a wild chase for jawbreakers that they can't reach, thanks to Sarah and Jimmy's well-timed sabotage. This is a funny pilot because it sets up the dynamic that the three Eds share, like Ed's movie-obsessed personality, the neurotic Double D, who's really OCD, and then Eddie the scammer, who takes advantage of every situation to look a little bit better. The episode ends with a line that I think really sums up the entire series, especially as we move forward.
A little childhood trauma built character.
And I don't know, it just feels like that is exactly what the theme of this series is. And as long as they stick to that, that's kind of what keeps Ed, Edd, and Eddy grounded, despite its episodic. The pilot of Ed, Edd, and Eddy is really impressive because how much it accomplishes in such a short amount of time. Like, for example, we get a line from almost every character, Ralph, Johnny, Jimmy, Sarah, in this 10-minute time period. We also get to see what makes each Ed unique, like Double D has his OCD, Eddie has his scamming, and Ed has his fandom. Getting to see them interrogate Johnny is so much fun because it shows how far these characters are willing to go to get what they want. And in the end, we get to see what usually drives them is their need for sugar, jawbreakers, and they're willing to do anything to get there. The rest of the series follows a very similar format where it's the boys trying to get jawbreakers or get money through scams to get Jawbreakers. It's kind of like the characters become a little bit less stereotypes of themselves as the series develops, but this is such a fun start. And even the second half of this first episode, it becomes more about the Canker sisters, but I'll talk about that later. The pilot episode for Courage the Cowardly Dog is called The Chicken from Outer Space. Spoiler alert, there's a chicken in it. Courage the Cowardly Dog has always been an uncomfortable show that I did not like to talk about because it's a little scary. And I know that the pilot wasn't necessarily in the episode order, it was more premiered on Cartoon Network, but I thought it would be important to go to the actual one. So it starts with Courage looking a little more deformed than usual, living in his house in the middle of nowhere with Miriam and Eustace. He chills on the porch when he notices a UFO with a chicken in it come out. The chicken's eyes are beet red, showing that it's probably an alien chicken. Courage tries to warn the elderly parents, but Eustace the dad keeps scaring him to mess with him. We see that Courage is actually a really scared dog and kind of the boy who cries wolf type. He runs to the chicken cottage only to find all the chickens being murdered by this other chicken. He runs home to warn the parents, and once again, Eustace scares him. How is that helpful? Courage looks like an idiot again when there's only one chicken in the place. Muriel takes its eggs, which are red. Why are you taking those, Muriel? That is red flag alert. Then the chicken locks Courage into the chicken coop. Meanwhile, Muriel and Eustace actually make these disgusting eggs, and Courage still tries to get out with dynamite, which, by the way, if you have dynamite, isn't there another resource that could possibly get you out? Courage watches the grandparents eat the disgusting eggs that are red and smile. It is gross. And suddenly, Eustace starts to transform, which he was already disturbing before, and now it's even scarier. Courage and the chicken start battling it out as Eustace continues to transform into this disturbing chicken. And this part's kind of funny as they play checkers and stuff. But the most disturbing part is Eustace's transformation into this disgusting chicken, and it's just so uncomfortable, and I hate it already. As the chicken tries to zap Courage, he misses and zaps himself, leaving Courage to take his alien-like gun and stop Eustace. And he kills Eustace, which we don't talk about? That seems like something that's really impactful to the series. Yeah, Courage has never been my type of show just because of how dark and eerie it is. And it's one thing to compare it to The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy in being a really dark tone, but this feels like a bunch of horror stories put together, and I don't know how any kid would enjoy watching this. Although I do have a lot of friends that are fans of it. The alien stuff is really disturbing, but you gotta admit they paint a beautiful picture of being in the middle of nowhere with Courage running through this desolate desert. It's very clear that Courage's goals as he tries to protect his owners while somehow still dealing with his fears. It's very admirable to watch. I could see the creators having started out with maybe one of their dogs and seeing that it has its own perspective, and we kind of are drawn into the theme of somebody not believing in you when something's really going wrong. But these owners don't seem to care about Courage too much, so it's hard for me to get on their side. And they essentially copy and paste this format for most of the episodes where Courage sees something, tries to communicate it with his owners, and they don't understand. And the show somehow lasted for 4 seasons. Not trying to bag on it too much, but it's a little weird. The next show is codenamed Kids Next Door. Their pilot episode is Operation Caked. In the Kids Next Door pilot, we're introduced to a bunch of depressed kids singing for the neighbors down the lane, the KND's natural enemies. They burst in through...
Splendid. Now while I eat our birthday cake, you may sing it again.
The kids next door burst into the party and send out a giant stench, more so harming all the kids at the party than necessarily the neighbors. Number 1 is introduced in a really cool entrance from the door as number 5 tries to give him the rundown.
Party guests evacuated, cake located, and party clown neutralized.
It turns out to have been just a trap to get them, and all the windows get shut.
But we were just about to play some party games.
These kids talk in unison, and it's really uncomfortable. Number 4 reveals that the reason they don't like them is because they love adults and they're snobby.
I got invited to a birthday party!
And then number 4 beats up a 4-year-old. The 4-year-old freaks out and transforms into this giant wrestling type figure, and the neighbors insist on playing party games.
Now.
Fine. We'll play your little party games for now.
As a matter of fact,
They try to get number 3 to hit a piñata with number 1 in it, and this 4-year-old girl keeps transforming in and out of a giant figure.
No peeking!
your turn!
The little girl gives the neighbors her gift, but they say they don't really want it yet, but they don't want to anger her, so they accept it. They read the note attached to it that says Kids Next Door Battle Stations, which means all the kids run in, steal the cake, and cut their house in half, which, whoa, real estate-wise, that's gotta be a nightmare to deal with for these guys. I do feel bad because their homes are taken over, but you know what? They're bad.
Thanks for the cake. Your party is over. Delightful children from down the lane.
The little girl with the neighbors thinks this is unjust, so tries to grab the other side of their house and ends up in the cake. The kids next door get away free, and the neighbors down the lane are stuck with this psychopath.
Next year we'll get a giant lizard or something smarter than that stupid girl.
Coconut!
And that leads us to our pilot. Kids Next Door is a really interesting show because I love the concept of kids running an entire secret mission operation and them being so coordinated and good at it. We definitely get a moment with each of the characters, like number 3 with the piñata, number 4 picking on the little girl, and number 2 getting stuck at the window. It sets the tone for most of their episodes being about their childlike rules running their entire operation. They don't have a lot of tolerance for younger people, and they really don't respect people that listen to their parents.
First, I'm going to clean your adult-loving, prissy little plot.
You have to admire all the kids next door for being so good in a team. It's cool that all the kids are stuck at this party, essentially, and it's all about them trying to one-up each other, because that is definitely a kid's location. And the animation is so well done. It's unlike the other shows, it seems like this one stays intact, completely until the end of the show. Now, I hope you guys are ready for the 2010s era, because I'm not. Now, a lot of these, I jumped between doing exactly scratch pad pilots of sometimes the actual first draft, and other episodes, I'm gonna go over their first episode. Basically, we're gonna talk about the first taste of each of these shows. Now, here's where things get interesting. Most pilots on Cartoon Network feel like a trial by fire. Unlike episodes deep into a series where the characters and plot are already well established, pilots are often trying things out on the fly. Some episodes throw viewers directly into the plot as if to say, hey, here's what you're in for, without much of a setup. So how exactly do these differ from other channels? For starters, Cartoon Network has always taken the risk that other networks might shy away from. That's why you'll notice a extreme tonal shift, like for example, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. They look at their audience as a lot more mature than just simple kids, which is probably why a lot of people in my generation flocked toward it. There's a lot more death, a lot more gore than anything seen on Disney or Nickelodeon. And as the years have passed, we've seen these pilots evolve in fascinating ways. Although, looking at some of these, I just wonder how in the world they even came to be. Who put these on the air? We start with the Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, the pilot episode being called Several Leagues Under the Sea. So for the pilot of Flapjack, we are surprisingly greeted by 2 random characters that kind of introduce us to the fastest ship in Stormalong. So we get to see the glimpse of the world before we meet the characters.
Move over, some folks! Make way for Bubby, the fastest ship in the 7th sea!
Then we find Flapjack and Knuckles on top of Bubby the whale, and Flapjack is reprimanded for bragging too much.
It don't cause nothing but trouble.
Whoa! That's the 2nd fastest thing in the 7 seas!
A bunch of random people in the ocean say that there's no way Bubby's the fastest because there's already somebody faster. Flapjack insists on going to this faster person. So Bubby takes them underwater to meet this man.
Welcome to the muscle.
The muscle?
And he shows him his underwater palace thing, which kind of shows us that the world isn't exactly modern times because everything is a little bit steampunky.
I give you the alpha whale.
Yeah, so he calls it the alpha whale, which is actually a really funny title for the fastest running thing. And he actually has a bunch of kids working for him, kind of like Timu. Bubby reminds Flapjack not to brag, but Flapjack accidentally does anyway.
But Bubby's the fastest whale in the 7 seas!
She could beat any whale or sail in the water.
And the leader of this underwater world takes it as a challenge.
Didn't I tell you bragging would just bring trouble?
Then we see a beautiful transition from Stormalong at night to Stormalong in the day, which, oh my gosh, the art in this is just so pretty.
Dead?
I mean, slowest.
So they all gather to race the 7 Seas, which is apparently a really dark and scary place, and Bubby does not want to go there. And the guy starts shooting off the worker kids at Bubby, which shouldn't be fair to a race. So Flapjack fights them off. Meanwhile, Knuckles waits inside Bubby.
The alpha whale is taking the lead!
The man is forced to work without his worker kids and ends up being much slower than Bubby.
Of course, scheduled breaks are important. Good for productivity.
As I finally get to the dangerous seas, a giant kraken-like monster appears, and the man doesn't hesitate to shoot the kids at it.
Lucky for us, we're protected by the alpha whale.
Flapjack has his defining character decision where he decides to go back and actually save the kids as opposed to winning the competition too quickly. So they run back, help all the kids.
Well, we may not have won the race, but I hope we've won your hearts.
As they get back to the island, the man in the alpha whale reveals he took a picture, which turns out to be one of the other little boys just drawing a picture, which shows me that technology really isn't prominent here.
B! The she-whale won by a tongue?
Revealing that Bubby actually won overall. The man is sad, and it's clear this guy doesn't have a lot going on. Oh, then we get one last beautiful shot of Stormalong, where Bubby reminds Flapjack and Knuckles that it's never good to brag.
I'll never make that mistake again.
And in the last second, we see a robot version of Knuckles, and it ends there, which, explain that to me, please. Flapjack does a great job in the pilot of establishing the environment the show takes place, the morals of the characters, and the emotions you're expecting everybody to go through. This pirate-like adventure, sort of like One Piece if it was more episodic. And it's all grounded by Flapjack's innocent-like heart, which apparently is the showrunner's voice. They talk more later about Candied Island and the characters' individual goals, but for the most part, this whole show remains a little bit episodic. And this pilot does a really good job at setting that up. With a dark Dr. Seuss-like animation style and the aesthetic of a pirate ship map, the show really sets it apart from other shows like it on Cartoon Network. Its sole purpose, especially in the title, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, is to take the characters on a very short journey in a pirate-like style. And looking back, I can't believe how gripping it is. I mean, hitting the 2010s with shows like Chowder and this are a giant step up from like Billy and Mandy, Courage, and Kids Next Door, and the new generation of cartoons seems to be really promising. So let's continue. So for the Steven Universe pilot, things are a lot more eerie. We're introduced to the main three heroes and Steven Universe being the most basic of them all, and their elegant, unique powers. Steven's sitting on the couch eating a bag of chips, clearly waiting for his hero-like friends to return. They look a lot different in this since it's the pilot than the actual show, but it's kind of cool.
What the heck was that? An electric skull. Our crystal palace was swarming with them.
This is their main camp, Steven Universe's little island where these heroes hang out. Amethyst shows Steven a really powerful like crystal, and Steven really is upset that he can't come along with them. He even shows them a song that he wrote about how he wants to be so much closer to these heroes.
'Cause we're good and evil never beats us. We'll win the fight and then go out for pizzas.
The music Steven sings is really nostalgic, especially for Moana type vibes, this tropical, like, sweet song. Music in this pilot is really promising, an already sweet start to a series. The animation looks a little creepy, especially compared to the rest of Steven Universe, but it's pretty wholesome in its pilot-like way. His friends remind him that he still doesn't have powers in his gem, so he can't be involved in all the adventures.
Look, Steven, you're still too young to come with us. You don't even have powers in your gem. But I want to help!
Which kind of feels like a metaphor for wanting to grow up and fit in with friends, but you're not necessarily as far along as that. Amethyst feels bad, so she asks him to grab them a bunch of donuts, giving him the powerful object they just received. When Steven goes into the donut place, we see that his town kind of mocks him for having all his friends, and feel bad for him.
What are they anyway? Witches or ghosts or something?
They ask him if he wants his donuts to be in a hot dog, which is disgusting. As he exits the donut place, the orb activates and takes him back in time to where he could say what he wished he said to the person.
Oh, I should have said that! That's really funny!
He redoes the scenario and makes a friend along the way. Takes him a second to realize it's the little orb, but then he's excited. He goes back in time to test it one more time and gives him another insult.
At least people like jokes!
Geez, Steven, this is so funny to like see how the childlike mindset of needing to have a really good comeback. It's innocent and it really shows his type of character. Steven gets in trouble for using the orb, which is kind of like an hourglass, and it's revealed that since he used it first, he has access to its powers.
Now that it's activated, it can only be used by you for its chosen purpose.
What did you use it for?
Comebacks?
Funny, Steven, really funny. It's revealed that Steven actually ripped holes in the fabric of time and this giant skeleton-like gem is coming back. In the end, the gems have to help make up for Steven's mistake by stopping this skeleton-like creature. Steven is appalled when he witnesses the creature actually defeat all the gems right in front of him because of his mistake.
Help! I can't! I'm a butt face. Why am I such a butt face?
Turns out his comebacks actually help him defeat the evil and save all of his friends.
What's your excuse?
You did it.
Steven leads his friends to push the giant donut and actually tackle the skeleton, fully defeating it. Which, by the way, this is a reverse reaction to me trying that hot dog donut type thing. And then we find Steven Universe's first attempt at leadership, leading him to be just as important as his friends.
And you guys! I wish I could have told you this morning that this clown was gonna save your life!
At the end, it sends him back in time one last time, and all his heroism is erased, so nobody remembers it except for him. And Steven realizes that he's just as strong as his friends. The end. This pilot is really sweet. I've never seen it before now, and I noticed that a lot of the animation is significantly different, not in a negative way, but in like a really, this seems a lot more sketched out way. I love to see where they go after this in Steven Universe, and I love that it starts with a very minuscule childlike issue escalating into an adult-like battle, because with Western audiences, a lot of superhero shows start with a main antagonist that is a little bit in over their head and rewards them by the end of it a confidence boost. And of course, Steven Universe develops a lot more lore, but this is the perfect first step in a large narrative about this kid and the relationship with his best friends, the Crystal Gems. I'm really impressed with the character motivation for Steven in this. It's so wholesome. And the fact that he's the only one who remembers his triumph is a really great story element, because it does show that you have to be proud of yourself before other people can. So The Amazing World of Gumball is another show I've not seen, so I'm excited to see the pilot and judge it by that. We start with Gumball watching TV, and his mother is kind of nagging him to return his DVD to the DVD store.
You rented it with your money.
The money I have to go and earn to feed you kids.
The kids you decided to have.
Gumball finds Darwin, his brother, irresponsibly using the DVD to cut a pizza, which is a shame on physical media. Darwin, that is not okay. Gumball tries to fix it, but makes it worse using the wrong side of the sponge. And it falls into the drain, which, by the way, no drain hole is big enough to fit a DVD.
What are we gonna do? Face the consequences of our actions and tell Mom? Don't be silly. I've got a much better idea.
They end up taking a piece of cardboard and putting it where the DVD should be, which is kind of funny, and giving it back to the store. But Darwin explains that they ended up getting a late fee and they'll have to start paying it. So they act homeless and steal coins from another homeless person.
The reason you guys are on the streets is to pay a DVD fine?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right? People don't understand how hard our life is.
The DVD store starts calling their house, which is kind of scary, and leaving voicemails. And Darwin keeps reiterating that they need to come clean and tell the truth. Gumball and Darwin end up signing up for makeovers to get the money back, and it does not help.
What happened to you? I think I'm allergic.
They find a bunch of letters at the door, meaning the DVD store will not give up in contacting them. Gumball's mom suspects something's wrong and announces she's coming right home. Gumball rejects another time to come clean and decides to buckle down even further, and they make a brand new DVD. The mom comes home only to find out that something is up. In a giant chase scene to get to the DVD store, Gumball and Darwin finally make it and give the DVD to the store clerk. Turns out to just be a homemade DVD, and like 20% of it is just credits. The guy does not fall for it and tells him that they still owe him $25. Gumball's mom explains to them that it's okay to make a mistake as long as you come clean about it, like Darwin said this whole time.
See, Darwin, you should always tell the truth and face the consequences of your actions.
But then when they tell him that she owes a lot more than $25, she teaches their kids to escape as they run away. This pilot did exactly what Flapjack did, where they state the theme within the episode. For example, Bubby tells Flapjack not to brag, so they mention it a couple times, not to brag. Now we're seeing that again in Amazing World of Gumball when Darwin reminds Gumball, face the consequences of our actions. It seems like Cartoon Network really leaned into making sure that the characters' goals are clear and the flaw of the main character is also clear. They do something similar in books where they say the first 10 pages you need to know exactly what the flaw is of the main character, whether it's another person pointing it out or it's just something the audience notices. Never seen something so disorienting at first because of the live action backgrounds being and the animation being the foreground. It's just so off-putting in a very intriguing way. Now it's time for a regular show. Okay, so we got Rigby and Mordecai playing with cereal in their new house. They're talking about how they just started this new job and want to fill the house with stuff they like. They find Pops getting ready to throw out an old couch and they're suddenly enticed by it. They run over to see if there's a possibility that they can take it.
Good idea.
If you two can settle it between yourselves, then you're more than welcome to have it.
But Rigby and Mordecai can't decide who gets it. They decide to play rock, paper, scissors, and they start trash talking each other, which is fun because this is so character driven.
I already know what you're gonna throw before you even throw it, baby.
That's not even possible, baby!
They go on for several rounds and a really intense montage happens and things get a little surreal as regular show is normal to do. Pop starts bringing in people to place bets on these guys, which kind of feels like animal fighting since they're all humans surrounding them. Then a dramatic voice thunders from the sky.
Since no one can decide, and all that's played is tied 100 times, I take it upon myself to eat your pride.
I'm not sure if it's God or what, but they're just as interested in who gets the couch. And a giant vortex opens up. Mordecai and Rigby start to blame each other as they're getting sucked into the void. Rigby notices Pop's couch actually gets sucked into the void, so he follows it. Mordecai runs to save his friends, and so does Pops, as they all get sucked into this vortex. They all hold on to each other, trying not to get sucked in. They realize it's because they hadn't finished their game of rock, paper, scissors, so Mordecai and Rigby finish it, and the entire void disappears, and the chair is gone.
Did you win?
Then they get in trouble because they also broke the golf cart and are told they have to clean up. And that's how the episode ends. Regular show feels kind of basic, and the premise is actually very short. Just the idea that they're playing rock, paper, scissors, and there's a lot of silent, nuanced moments. Like, for example, the characters trying to sit on the couch. It's a lot of them thinking, like, it's a lot of mundane, simple things. And regular show is interesting because it does have that supernatural aspect that every episode kind of starts as a really, really simple premise and then escalates into something supernatural. And they definitely gave that impression in this. I remember when I first saw it, I wasn't sure if every episode was going to be supernatural, but then I looked at every episode and I'm like, oh, the premise is pretty similar. And yeah, it's just overall a good pilot. Plot twist, the Adventure Time pilot, created by Pendleton Ward, actually aired as a short on Nickelodeon's random cartoon series in 2007. The early version introduced fans to the whimsical, colorful world of Ooh and set the tone for the series' imaginative storytelling.
What are you meditating about, dude?
Wait, dude, I'm connecting to the internet with my mind.
Finn and Jake spot a crying unicorn that belongs to Princess Bubblegum, so they try to figure out what's wrong with her personality, and they receive a message from Princess Bubblegum that she was captured from the Ice King. The opening title credit comes in at just the right time as Finn and Jake head off to get to Princess Bubblegum in the Ice King. They sled down some penguins and start throwing snowballs at everybody. We get a glimpse of some of the cool people in the land of Ooh, like a giant fire monster and a giant snow monster, as they reach the Ice King's lair.
Ice King, stop it!
When they reach Ice King's lair, they discover that he's trying to win Princess Bubblegum's love, which is kind of creepy because she's not interested, boy, because the Ice King carries his icy magic to freeze him. Then Finn gets an apparition, which is Abraham Lincoln, which is already trippy for the 2010s.
Mine has been transported back in time and to Mars.
What?
As Finn gets out of the block of ice, he notices that Ice King is taking Princess Bubblegum and trying to escape. So they have a little race through the sky. Ice King, Princess Bubblegum, Finn and Jake, and Princess Bubblegum's unicorn. Finn makes a heroic jump to grab the princess, and they land back on her unicorn. And the Ice King has a fit.
How dare they trifle with me?
In the end, Princess Bubblegum thanks Finn, and Finn and Jake head off happily ever after. And that's Adventure Time. I just feel like this is not as character driven, it's more plot driven. Like, Finn is taking direct action, but we're not really talking about his flaw or like something he's overcoming. It feels like it's just going from action to action to action, which isn't necessarily bad, but I do feel like it makes a little bit weaker of a pilot, but that's just me. This early version is so weird because look at the animation. It's like, feels like it was drawn, especially for being in a lot later than the other ones. Despite its low budget animation and simpler character designs compared to the full show, the pilot captures the spirit of Adventure Time, blending quirky humor, unexpected twists, and the love of all things strange and fantastical. We get a little bit of a moment for each character, and it feels very promising. I like how simple the premise is because it allows us to see how unique the concept is in comparison to that. And the pilot's success like really built the cult following, and it was picked up by Cartoon Network, and the series was evolved into a really deeper focus on storytelling, character development, and world building. There's just something so impressive about Pendleton Ward's ability to simplify a story and add depth to its underscoring narrative. Okay, everybody, we had our fun. We went through all the pilots, but something that I thought would be really fun would be to try to break them into their own categories. Let's start with the Unique Character Award, the show that, despite like the tone, the theme, the characters, had probably the most intriguing characters right off the bat. We'll grab one from each generation and see which one wins. For the Unique Character Award, we have The Amazing World of Gumball, and from the 2000s, we'll have Kids Next Door. The winner for the most unique character award goes to Gumball. I think Cartoon Network just did a good job at finally developing nuances, more plot, more going from one obstacle to another obstacle, while Gumball does breathe a little bit more. Obviously, that comes with time and developing all these shows, and they got better at it. I hope not all the new ones win, but you guys know what I mean. Now we talk about the best theme. Theme is, it's kind of the overall tone of the piece. If you say you like the theme of a show, you're probably saying, I like what the show's trying to communicate. I like the messages in this show, and I feel like they're trying to say something deeper. Our best contenders are Steven Universe and Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. This one definitely goes out to, this one also goes to Steven Universe because there was a lot more depth to everything in this series than Grim Adventures. I mean, Grim Adventures did a great job of introducing the theme of death and carrying it out throughout the longevity of its run. But the lore of Steven Universe continued to develop more and more as time went on, making it structurally a lot more stronger. Next, let's do Best Environment. So environment is kind of like the town everybody's living in, the supporting characters, and just how the world is painted. Our contenders for this one I'll have as Ed, Edd and Eddy and The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. See, this one was a really hard one because Ed, Edd and Eddy does a great job of filling in the childlike charm of your backyard. All the inventions they make are tools you could find in a neighborhood. Everything is contained within this cul-de-sac, and they really own it. They only go as far as the Kanker Sisters RV, which is in a dump nearby. They can't drive, so they don't really try to go anywhere, and each character is kind of given their own little territory. Each of the Ed's houses kind of reflect who they are and what they like to do. For example, Eddie's house is kind of like a bachelor pad. Ed's house is crummy and just has a TV at its focal point, and Double D's place is all organized. We don't see any of the parents, which gives it kind of a Peanuts vibe. Although in Flapjack, we get Stormalong, which is this beautiful pirate-like island with a bunch of candy stores and gives us kind of that beachfront vibe. But instead, it's littered with fishermen, old people. It just seems so decisive, and that's what I love about it. Like, you know exactly who's in this town and why they're there. We definitely communicate with some of the animals, like Bubby, and Knuckles is that stereotypical sailor. It just feels like the plot is so intertwined with the area it is. And I love how isolated it feels. It feels like this is just an island on its own, and all these people kind of cohabitate in a bubble. It wouldn't be so impressive if we didn't go underwater in the pilot. To see that there is so much more to this that meets the eye is even more cool, because we have the imagination to see more episodes. An environment on its own can entice a viewer to want to see the show, aside from the characters, aside from the theme, just to see what's going on in the world. And I think they did a great job with Flapjack. Flapjack is definitely the winner. Now, I wanted to give out an award for the biggest changes. I mean that in the sense of the show that's the most different from their pilot and really improved based off of that. The contenders for this is The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Adventure Time. So Billy and Mandy starts with a lot more exaggerated in this 7-minute short. Mandy's head's a lot bigger and her hair goes back very tinily. The characters are mostly the same, but the darkness of the pilot is really what sticks out. they're not afraid to go to the underworld super early on to show that there's going to be a lot happening. There's not a lot in the underworld, which is kind of disappointing, but it definitely transformed later when we got to series. The series itself carried on the theme of good and evil, and that's pretty much what the pilot was. Aside from the animation being a really big distinction, I definitely think Billy and Mandy doesn't quite hold up to Adventure Time. Adventure Time, I feel like, made the biggest changes because not only did the animation get better, but the story got better. The characters grew, and we even see a bigger cast line up a lot quicker. A lot of these contenders were really close calls, but I had to make a final decision, and it was really hard to justify the original pilots. When TV shows are being developed, obviously it's going to get better. Ed, Edd n Eddy, while a great show, just didn't have the same resources that Flapjack did. Billy and Mandy had a lot less research into it than Adventure Time could have. And they knew their character formula in Gumball from learning from Kids Next Door. So really, it's a hard battle. Well, there we have it. Some of the best pilots of Cartoon Network. Some of the best pilots of all time. I had a lot of fun rewatching this, and I learned a lot. And I was also pretty disturbed, more than I wanted to be. So until next time, my name is Johnny2000, and don't forget to subscribe, and have a great day.